Hello, this is Ken Barron. I'm with the National Association of Black and White Men Together. And the topic for today is joblessness for Black women, and it's rising again, also for Black workers in general. 2 years after reaching a record low, it's a troubling indicator. A rise in Black unemployment is often considered an early warning sign for the overall economy, as Black workers are frequently the first to be laid off during economic downturns. The administration effort to reshape the federal government has serious implications for federal workers and their families, especially Black workers. For decades, the federal government has provided a stable employment, excellent health benefits, and key protections in hiring and promotion that supported a robust Black middle class. This time, the administration's assault on diversity programs and cuts to the federal workforce could make it even more difficult for Black workers to recover when conditions improve. The African American unemployment rate has surged over the past 4 months from 6 to 7.5%, while the rate for white people ticked down slightly to 3.7%. On top of a slowing economy, the White House's actions have been disproportionately harmed for Black workers. That's what economists say. Since the 1970s, the rate for Black people has run about twice the rate for white people. Because of inferior educational opportunities, the legacy of mass incarceration and discrimination over generations that happens. Black people confront greater challenges in the job market. In 2023, conditions for Black workers looked as healthy as ever. Unemployment reached a low of 4.8%. Wages rose at their fastest pace since data collection began in the 1990s. And median Black households' wealth reached the highest level on record. Conditions started to deteriorate, however, in 2024 after pandemic era subsidies expired. Hiring slowed, and high prices weighed heavily on low income earners. Black households were the only racial group last year in which median income fell and the poverty rate rose. That's according to the Census Bureau. Job losses are concentrated amongst Black women working in professional services such as human resources, according to analysis of federal data. A hiring freeze and mass layoffs in the federal workforce, which have continued during the government shutdown, now exceeds 200,000. And they have also fall disproportionately, of course, on Black workers. The hiring freeze is an impediment for young workers trying to get their foot in the door also. State and local governments have picked up some of the slack from federal agencies, but competition for these jobs has gotten tougher with more laid off public sector workers looking for positions. The Los Angeles Black Workers Center has pushed local governments to hire more Black workers because unionized public sector jobs have historically provided an on ramp to stable employment. Federal backlash against diversity, equity, and inclusion practices may be making it more difficult for Black workers to get hired in the private sector, too. The administration ordered that group not to pursue racial equity anymore. Lower interest rates could offer some relief. Representative Ayanna Pressley, Democrat of Massachusetts, wrote to Jerome Powell, chairman of the Federal Reserve, in early September, demanding that the central bank take strong action to support full employment for Black workers. Fed officials lowered rates later in the month for the first time this year and suggested that more cuts were likely. But the administration action beyond workforce cuts and anti DEI policies could create additional hurdles for Black workers. The Department of Labor's proposed rollback of minimum wage and overtime protections for domestic workers, for example, would hurt their incomes. Home care aides for the elderly are overwhelmingly Black and Hispanic women. And despite the claim that immigrants take jobs from black people, rising joblessness among black workers suggest that mass deportation of migrants hasn't arrested the trend. Immigrants fill labor shortages, complement the native workforce, and create jobs through entrepreneurialism and increased economic demand. Instead of displacing US born workers, immigrants often take jobs that native born workers are unwilling to or unable to do, or they fill high skill positions that are in high demand. Well, that's the lowdown on joblessness, particularly for Black and Hispanics. It's not really a great bit of news, but it has to be said. And this is Ken Barron. Once again, I'm with the National Association of Black and White Men Together, and I'm here on this podcast and video hosted by Substack. And we're on Facebook, and our main address is NABWMT at newmt.org. Thank you so much for listening.